easily is poor communication in marriage. I mean, I don't even know what's number two. How to communicate as one. Communication. I know it sounds corny. Once couples truly understand that a marriage is not about you, it's about you too, then selfishness in marriage it starts to become addressed. And at the core of poor communication, it's really selfishness. It's people thinking that marriage is about making them happy. Marriage at its core is about unselfish servitude. Pride kills more marriages than death does. Service. That's what I mean by submission. But that man's compass is pointed towards trying to serve you.
Welcome, everyone, to the Revolutionary Man podcast. I'm the founder of The Awakened Man and your host, Alan DeMonso. When I think back on my childhood and I watched how my parents communicated, I can see that there were patterns in their communication style. When there were serious things to discuss, then both of them would speak in French and fast. And my mother was always a communicator. She would always start every conversation. And my father, he just listened. He spoke infrequently, but when he did so, it had lots of impact. And I didn't understand the nuances of those interactions. And because of that, I modeled it as I grew up. And guess what? That's how the communication unfolded in my marriage. And the thing is, we can talk a lot without really saying anything. Isn't that true? Well, today my guest is going to share his incredible story through what he had to go through and how he uncovered the truths and the keys to improve our communication skills. Now, before I get into all that, I want to remind you to hit like, subscribe, and share on your favorite platform so you can stay updated on the latest content while helping me grow the Awakened Man message. And for that, I want to say I'm truly grateful. So let's get on with today's episode.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life, many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet, the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
As you know, it's customary, I'd like to start off with a couple of questions to help us set the stage for our conversation today. So how would you rate yourself as a communicator? And how about your spouse? Okay, so listen, regardless of how you've answered that, I wonder, how do you know? Well, if we can't answer that, and even if we can, I think my guest today is going to give us a hand in how we can raise the level of how we communicate in our marriages and in our lives. So let me take a couple minutes here and introduce to you Felice Mathieu. He is a communication and marriage coach, a spoken word poet, and the author of a Christian marriage guide, preventing arguments and promoting unity in the Christian marriage. Felice's story is one of tragedy and resurrection, and today he's on a mission to help spouses achieve unity in their marriage so that they can build a community inside and out. Welcome to the show, Felice. How are things today?
Thanks for having me. I'm exhausted. We're moving to a new home, so that's never a fun time.
No, I hear you. Moving's always you find out real quick just how much stuff you have, don't you?
Oh my God, yes. I thought about just selling stuff and leaving it on the curb, but I have a wife, and I want to keep having a wife. So
yeah, I hear you. Been there. So listen, Felice, in my men's work, one of the things that we talk about every one of us being on our own hero's journey or a hero's quest. So I'd like to start off by having you tell us about your hero's quest and your journey in life and how that's paved the road for who you are today and for the work that you do.
Yeah, my journey started really separated from God. Like, by the grace of God, I never had a point in my mind where I didn't believe a God existed. But there was a time where I turned away from him, and it happened around my mother's death. So my mother died of HIV when I was 12. Up to a year leading to her death, I'd be in school learning about the signs of HIV. And then throughout that year, I'd watch my mom manifest those signs. I remember vividly one time coming from school, and then as soon as I go through those trailer doors, my mom was sitting on a chair and she had a big old engorged like neck, and she was waiting for me so that she can go to the hospital. So that was one of the signs of HIV. But I never knew my real father, right? My stepfather was like my real father, but he was murdered in Haiti a few months after my mom died. And then the last living blood relative that I knew was my granduncle, and he died of diabetes a few months after that. So all that to say, within a year, I became an orphan, and I would stay that way up until 8 months ago, to where I had my first son. And so that's the only blood relative that I knew. And I say all that to say that there's two outcomes to that. And as a marriage counselor, uh, I understand that it could have went two ways. One, I could have had a big problem with relationships, right? I could have had a huge problem forming relationships. The other side to that coin is I could have became obsessed with relationships. So spoiler alert, I was a 13-year-old kid reading Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Now, why was I doing that? Well, I would never have a family in the way that everybody who had a brother, a sister, an uncle, a cousin, a grandpa, a grandmother, a granduncle, somebody. I became obsessed with marriages and relationships because I wanted to reproduce a family that I would never have. So for over 20 years, I've studied marriages, and I've tried to figure out how marriages last, because once I got married, that was it. That was it for me.
Right on. That's great to hear. You know, what a story. And like I said in the introduction there, what tragedy, all of that death in your life there at such a young age, and all within a short period of time. And then for you to have the fortitude to turn around and start doing personal development work at such a young age is really a testament to your character and who you are as a man. So listen, you've spent 20 years now doing this research, and and you're married now. So with all this experience that you've had over the last 20 years, what would you say you find is the number one problem facing marriages today?
Well, the number one problem facing marriages is easily poor communication. It's easily poor communication. Some people say finances and sex and lack of respect, and those are all valid points. But if you really think about it, it usually revolves how you communicate around those points. All right. So yeah, it's not. I can't even think of a second one.
I would totally agree. I think a lot of the times we do have struggle with these other things, like you're saying, right? And whether it's money or sex or anything else in there, raising children, you name it. But it really comes down to how well we communicate and being able to do that effectively. So what do you think is the number one solution then to solve this problem? If it's communication is a problem, how are you helping couples, resolve that?
I'm teaching them how to communicate with their spouse better than they communicate with themselves. In other words, I'm teaching couples how to communicate as one. Communication. I know it sounds corny, and it sounds corny to me, but I think it really drives the point home in a very simple way. Communication. Once couples truly understand that a marriage is not about you, it's about you two, then selfishness in marriage starts to become addressed.
Yeah.
And at the core of poor communication, it's really selfishness. It's really selfishness. So I help couples achieve more unity in marriage. And the verse to me that profoundly speaks on that is the verse that says, so that you are no longer two, but one flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. I really like that approach because I think it is so true, right? And there's been lots of, I know, even in our relationship, in my marriage, and depending on what book you pick up or whatever the flavor will be, some of them say it's all about focus on yourself. Another one will say focus on the other individual. But truly, what I'm hearing you say, it's about a we relationship. It's about being one, understanding where the mutual piece of what it is that you're trying to discuss and comes forward to the forefront. And I think that is so powerful, Felice, that you're doing in that. So what would you give would be some basic tips for spouses to help them improve those skills? Like what are some things that you're coaching your clients to do?
Well, very, very, very basic exercise. right, that can start the process is have two couples get a blank sheet of paper, take out a pencil or a pen, and pick a topic. Let's say the topic is finances. And the couple would write down what finances look like to them on that paper, what they would like to be able to do, or some short-term goals, or some long-term goals. What's their perceptions around finances? This is what, when they look at this paper, this is what would make them happy, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? Here's the kicker. Switch papers.
Yeah,
approach finances one at a time for a week from that person's perspective. Don't worry about what you're getting in return. Worry about serving from that person's perspective. And side note, and I feel led to say this, one of the biggest attacks on marriage today is people thinking that marriage is about making them happy, right? Wait a minute, what kind of marriage counselor are you? I'm never gonna go to you. So you're saying that you're supposed to be unhappy? No. I'm not saying you're supposed to be unhappy in marriage, but I think this idea of, what can you do for me? Or, I'm not settling, or, happy wife, happy life, or, I think these ideas go against the fundamental design of marriage. Marriage at its core, it's about unselfish servitude.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, a good mother or a good parent, just to be fair to the fathers, but in the same way, a good parent is no longer concerned about them when they have a child. It's not about your sleep anymore. It's not about if you go into the club or you hang with your friends or if you have some me time. It's not about you anymore, right? Right. By the definition of a parent, right? It's about the needs and the wants of that child. That model is closer to what I believe the design, the divine design of marriage is versus the, what do you bring to the table for me? If two people are doing the what do you bring to the table for me, I don't see, and I will ask you this, do you see a marriage going as far versus two people looking to serve each other?
Yeah, I'm absolutely not. I think with the moment that we sit in that selfish position and look about what's happening to me, we start to find all the things that aren't happening, right? And then when we start to look at that perspective, we're missing everything, all the beauty, all the stuff that's working in the relationship, the reasons why you got together in the first place. And I completely agree with what you're saying.
That's a great way to put that. I might copy that one. I like that how you put that. That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, I was looking through, reading the first couple of chapters there of your book there. Thank you very much for sending that off. And I noticed you had a comment in there about 10 common marriage problems. I was wondering if you could just go over a few of those today with us, just to get our listeners have an opportunity to hear them.
I had a Facebook post that kind of went viral. And in that Facebook post, my wife took a picture of me. She's a photographer. I was dressed up. And then I put a caption that said, "Pride kills more marriages than death does." And that post went viral. I didn't, you never know what's going to take off. But that one went viral. And my point in saying that was, pride says, I'm not wrong, you are. Pride says, I don't need to improve, you do. Pride says, me. Pride says, you are wrong, you did this, you should have got this, you should have did that. If you stop doing this, then maybe. If you didn't do this, then maybe. So I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. Pride has the inability of seeing its own flaws, or as I say, you don't see your own boogers, right? You need that mirror. That mirror can be humility. That mirror can be spouse, which is, I believe, outside of Christ is your greatest mirror. Yes. That mirror can be an environment that fosters growth, right? That mirror can be a myriad of things, but pride would leave that mirror foggy, so you never really see yourself. You never really see the flaws that you bring into the relationship that are destroying the relationship, but yet you clearly see the flaws of your spouse. So that's the number one, right? And that's interchanged with selfishness. And selfishness is such an abstract thing. People can see lack of money or lack of attractiveness or, lack of presence. But when you talk about abstract things of selfishness, and I haven't found a way to capture this in video visually yet, but by selfishness, I mean I am overly focused on my point of view as it relates to important things in a marriage, to the point where I am not aware or I do not care about the perspective of the other person that I am in union with. Let's take a very complex one. Sex.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, women want romance. They want to be desired. They want connection emotionally before they connect physically, as well as they should, right? Those are great things. Men, generally speaking, want frequency, variety, and they want to feel like they're your best and they're pleasing you and you want them in that light. What happens, and ladies, I'm going to start with the men. What happens if a man is solely thinking or overly thinking about his frequency and not the romance, and not making her feel desired, not the connection, emotional intimacy? How does that woman feel? What happens now when the woman is overly thinking about it has to be this romance, he has to check out all these boxes before I'm in the mood? How does that man feel then? Versus two people serving each other. Hey, I know this is how he likes to be approached. I know this is what she likes to be approached. It's not to get something from the other. It's to serve the other, because this is what the person wants and desires. And I am in union to that person. I'm the only one that could provide that in that way in the context of a monogamous, godly marriage. You see the distinction there? Selfishness gets you to really, really just focus on yourself. Those two things alone, I've given workshops for 3 to 6 months on, because it takes a while to shift that paradigm. It really does.
Well, yeah, and it shows up in so many different ways in our life, right?
So many ways,
right? Everything as simple as one person always choosing where to go out to dinner may seem like a small thing, but that could be that proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. And
you got it.
We're not paying attention to the needs and the desires and the wants of our partner. We're not really connecting, and when we don't connect, then we struggle with our communication. So you're spot on with this.
You got it, man. And it's because it branches out. You're right. You ever seen the movie Gremlins back in the day, where touch water and they multiply? Yeah, man. If you don't have a firm understanding of unity, oh my God, from where do you go for Thanksgiving holidays? Whose side of the family?
Yes.
How do you raise your kids? Who left the toilet seat up? Very simple things that you have to be unified in throughout your relationship.
Yeah, that's so powerful when you're saying this, because it is so true. It's all those things. We don't have to be dealing with, I call them the big three: money, sex, and faith in marriages, because they tend to have the most emotion around them. But it can be everything and anything, and we need to learn how to be present and listen, and participate in our marriages. Love that. So why is it, do you think, that most that couples are arguing as frequently as they are? What do you think is causing that?
I could reiterate what I said, because there's so many layers to it, man.
Yeah.
But let me say it this way. Growing up, when I was doing my research, I would just watch a whole bunch of couples. I've even had jobs where I had the opportunity to talk and communicate with a whole bunch of couples. Back then, it was more common to find couples who were married 20 years plus, right? But I met a lot of people who were divorced that I asked questions to.
Yeah.
And I took all the things that I gathered and I put them in a poem, right? I would see men that want to be men, but these men that just want to be men that pretend to be men. Mm-hmm. So please, man, at ease, men. Being a man doesn't consist of consistent plans of deceiving women and releasing semen. I see men that get chills from children. Instead of taking the time to instill the skills of wisdom in them, they let paper bills raise them. Yet expect children to praise them. Being a father is just a phrase to them. They're like, why bother? It's just a phase to them. Yeah. In this predicament, I predict, men, that dollars don't make sense, men, since it's just senseless. I see women who woo men, try to rule men. meet a Tarzan man and try to tame him. Yeah. They try to jane him and rearrange him. See, their aim is to change him like colors on leaves that hang on trees when those trees go through seasons. But see, man, once we change, man, that's when we become lame to them. Yeah. Fellas wonder why. Well, the truth is underlined. It's a shame, but it's no lie. It's just a game to them. Yeah. And that's just a piece of the poem. But the bigger point of that poem is that I think we spend more time trying to take the speck out of someone else's eye instead of the plank in our own eye. If we shifted that mentality, we'd have better relationships, better communication, better everything.
Oh, absolutely. Amen, brother. Amen. Absolutely, for sure. So listen, I was kind of curious when I was looking at the title of your book, and the subtitle, though, talks about preventing arguments and promoting unity. But don't you think that arguing is a good thing in a relationship? Otherwise, if we're not going to be getting into arguments, or we're not really revealing the deepest part of ourselves. I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. And yes, there is a nuance to that, right? And I go on to say in my book that by argument, if I tell you pepperoni pizza is the best pizza in the world and you say no, and you give me a reason for why it's not, we are engaged in an argument. So what I wanted to do was to prevent people from the perception of an argument initially, right? By showing them what an argument means. Because a lot of people, when you say argument, they shut down. They rather not talk. So that's bad. You never have an opportunity to find out what the problem is. You never have an opportunity to pressure test it to see where the car is not functioning well at this certain speed. So I know I need to tighten this up, right? That's what an argument does. So it is kind of like I don't know if double entendre is the right word here, or a nuance of it. But yes, I did want to prevent the type of arguments where you feel like it's destructive and instead of constructive, right? But I first attempted to do that by saying, hey, essentially, if you say, yeah, this because I feel this or whatever, and you disagree with somebody, that's an argument. So the type of arguments that I was preventing is the type of arguments what it's really not about sharing how you feel or what you think and, understanding the other person. It's about telling the other person that your perspective is right and their perspective is wrong. That's what I want to prevent.
Yeah. Excellent. And I had a suspicion it was probably something like that because it is so true, right? We get that. That's such a trigger word when they talk about, oh, I'm having an argument, because maybe from their upbringing or whatever experiences they've had. And truly, you can have an argument about, like you said, a pizza, anything, but it's not a bad thing. How we engage ourselves in that is truly what sounds like is what you're teaching couples to do, is how to engage that allows for space and freedom of expression for both people.
Absolutely. You're so great at paraphrasing. I don't have that gift. Yeah, I wish I did. I really don't. People think I do. I don't have the gift of paraphrasing. I'm more of a professor and explainer.
Yeah. Well, listen, that poem was outstanding. So I just love that. I wish I had that gift as well. So listen, you also talk a little bit about submission, and what do you mean by that? By submission in marriage?
Oh Lord, you're trying to get me taken out. I see some women on the roof with snipers, man. You might want to come. Hey, he said the S word, ladies. Look. Hey, give me a chance. Don't pull the trigger. All right, because I know, oh my God, submission. I did a video on this on my Instagram page because, every 6 months to a year and a half, that word resurfaces, and there's a whole bunch of posts. And look, if you're not a Christian, okay, this is not for you. But if you are a Christian, or you're even slightly interested in knowing who Jesus is, then I want you to understand this. When I say submission, I'm not talking about someone ruling over you. I'm not talking about your feelings don't matter or your feelings come second. When I'm talking about submission, to go back to the metaphor I used earlier, I'm talking about the interactions between a good parent, say a mother, and their child. I'm talking about the selfless service. Yeah. That's what I mean by submission. And ladies, to be honest, I know that word is a trigger because maybe you met some type of ungodly men who did try to rule over you. And to be fair, there are some godly men that have a poor understanding of submission too, right? So now you hear that word and all of a sudden now you reject any type of conversation around it or attitude around it. But let me explain something to you. If you find a man who is submitted to Christ, not through just lip service, but trying to mold his behavior, his mindsets, his actions around Jesus. And if that leads that man to love you like Jesus, you would be happy to submit.
Yeah.
Because that man knows and understands and strives to, not perfectly, because no one who walks this earth's surface is perfect, but that man's compass is pointed towards trying to serve you. Why not submit to a man that way? That's what I mean by submission.
Absolutely. I love that. And I knew it'd be a trigger word, and I just had to ask it. So I love that explanation.
Put the rifles down, ladies. Put the rifles. It's okay. I'm for you. I'm on your side. I love my mama. I loved her.
Right on. Outstanding. Listen, of everything that we've talked about today, and maybe something we have yet to talk about, what would be a one takeaway you'd want our listeners to take from our conversation?
Marriage is not about you. It's about you too. If you can take anything, and I'm going to spend my life teaching that principle. I am going to dedicate my entire existence teaching that principle. If two people really understood that marriage is not about you, it's about you too, so that you are no longer two, but one flesh. I see so much depth in that scripture, man. I really do. Nice. And I've been saying that phrase for a few years. I love that verse, and I can hear a couple talk for 5 to 10 minutes and see the areas and hear the areas where they just don't have unity based on how they communicate. And my mind makes all these little branches of the problems that I know are stemming from that lack of unity. And I really want to help couples stay whole, right? I want to help whole couples stay whole. And that's the means that I believe I can do that.
Oh, that's outstanding, Felice. So I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I know we unpacked quite a bit about such an important topic and learning how to communicate properly and have unity in a relationship. Because the better that we can get at communicating, the more opportunity there is to grow for us, not just individually, but as a couple. So how would our guests get a hold of you and get involved in any of your programs?
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. It was awesome. You're great at paraphrasing. For real, you make me sound better than I am. Like, did I say that? Who's he paraphrasing? Did he read something? But I thank you for having me. I love partnering up with people and similar visions and similar audiences. So I appreciate you having me. And they can reach me at Facebook, Married as One, on Facebook. And you can go to my profile, click the link, follow the page. And then in that link, you can see all the other places that I'm at. I have blogs that I've written. I got a book that I've written. You can get the first 3 chapters of my book free from that link. And I'm trying to grow up a community that can change communities. So it's not about just followers to me or likes. It's about raising, partnering up with people that are following me in the vision so that I can hopefully change the trajectory of the next generation, especially in our Black communities that just don't believe in marriages. And the stats are overwhelming to how much we have to improve. Mm-hmm. So that's something I'm really passionate about, from working at the Boys and Girls Club, substitute teaching, and probably going to be heading to become a guidance counselor in schools. I'm really trying to pour into the next generation. And honestly, even more so in the next generation of adolescents than marriages, than husband and wife.
Absolutely. Well, I'll make sure I put that information in the show notes so folks can be able to get a chance to reach out to you. I want to say once again, please, thank you so much for spending time with me today. We had a great conversation.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.